Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to our 27th lecture of MTH 108 Business Math 1. Today we will continue with our chapter 13, which is about the introduction to probability theory. In our last lecture we have studied about the sets, their definition, what do we mean by the elements of a set, how we represent the set with the upper letter case and the curly brackets, and in two ways, by using the enumeration method or the descriptive method. Then what are the set notations, how we define what is the notation for an element belonging to a set, and what do we mean by the number of elements in a set. Then we have studied some special sets, particularly the universal set, the complement of a set, null set and subset, and the Venn diagram of all these special types of sets. In our last lecture we have also studied about the set operations by studying the equality of sets, the union of sets and the intersection of sets, and some very simple and important properties of the set operations, that is the properties of union and intersection of sets. Today we will continue with something related with our previous lecture, that is the number of elements of a set, and in this lecture we will see what do we mean by the permutations and the combinations, and how and we will see some different examples of it. Okay, so we start with the number of elements of a set. Suppose we have two sets A and B, then the number of elements of our set A union B will be, if we look at our Venn diagram, this is our universal set, this is our set A, and this is our set B. This is B and this is A. Okay, and for the sake of simplicity we consider our example of balls, which we have discussed in our previous lecture. That is, the set A had 4 balls of blue color, yellow, red and green, and the set B had 3 balls of black color, red and yellow. Then the number of elements of this A union B will be the number of elements of the set A plus the number of elements of the set B minus the number of elements which are common to both. That is, here we had our set A has 2 elements, B has 1 ball, and 2 balls were common to both. So the A union B, which we have calculated in our previous lecture, had 5 balls, that is the black ball, blue ball, yellow, red and green ball, which means that A union B in this case has 5 elements. And if we want to check this with the help of this formula, so the number of elements of our set A is 4 plus the number of elements of our set B is 3 minus the elements which are common to both, the red and yellow balls are common to both, minus 2. So the number of elements in the union of A and B is 5. In the second case, when we have our two sets which have nothing in common, for example, if this is our set A and this is our set B, then for example if our set A consists of all this 4 balls, that is blue ball, green ball, red ball and the yellow ball, and the set B has only, let's say, brown ball, then the set B has 1 element, set A has 4 elements, then the number of elements in A union B will be the number of elements in A plus the number of elements in B minus the number of elements in their intersection. But we say that in this situation our formula, that is the number of elements of A union B, is simply the sum of the number of elements in both the sets. Why we omit this intersection part? Because the number of elements in A is 4 balls, the number of elements in B is 1 ball, and do they have any ball in common? No. So the number of elements intersection is basically A intersection B in this case is the empty set, and so the number of elements in their intersection is 0 minus 0, which is equals to 5. So if two sets have nothing in common, then the number of elements of two sets is calculated as the sum of the number of elements of both the sets. But if two sets have something in common, then the number of elements of two sets is calculated as the sum of the number of elements of two sets minus the number of elements common to both. Now we have studied that how we can calculate this number of elements when we are considering our set operation as when we are considering union as our set operation. This calculation of number of elements will help us in our later lectures of this chapter when we will be dealing with the probability theory. Now we start with the new concept, which is about the permutations. But before starting the permutations, we must know what do we mean by the counting methods. In this lecture, we will discuss special counting methods which are quite useful in probability theory. We will focus on the various counting arrangements of the elements of a set. For example, if we are playing a game in which each play involves the roll of a die followed by the flip of a coin, what are the possible outcomes in this order? Now, the easiest way to understand the possible outcomes or to count the possible outcomes is to construct a tree diagram. What do we mean by this tree diagram? That is the possible outcomes. First, the statement says that we are playing a game in which first we roll a die and then we flip a coin. And we are interested in knowing the possible outcomes in this order. This order means that first the possible outcomes of rolling a die and then the possible outcomes of flipping a coin. Okay, so the possible outcomes of a roll of a die, of rolling a die is 6, because a die has 6 numbers, namely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So if we roll a die, we can obtain one of the number from these 6 numbers. So there are 6 possible outcomes when we roll the die first. Okay, so what are the possible outcomes when we flip a coin? The possible outcomes of flipping a coin are 2. That is, either we will obtain a head or we will obtain a tail. So the possible outcomes of flipping a coin are 2. And what are the total possible outcomes when we are playing a game in this particular order? For example, we start our game here and we roll a die. When the outcomes obtained by rolling a die and the outcomes obtained by flipping a coin, then we have 6 possible outcomes when we roll our die. So, and the next step is what are the possible outcomes when we flip a coin, which means that either we obtain a head or a tail, and the same possible outcomes with each number of outcomes of rolling a die. That is, if we obtain a 4 after rolling a die, then by flipping a coin after, either we will obtain a head or a tail. So this is our basically a tree diagram representing our possible outcomes depending on this order. That is, the first outcome is, let's say if we roll a die and 1 comes and then we flip a coin and head comes, then the first possible outcome is 1 and a head. Or if the tail comes, then 1 and a tail. And similarly we have 10 more possible outcomes for each of these 5 numbers. That is, our possible outcomes are 1 head 1 tail, 2 head 2 tail, 3 head 3 tail, 4 head 4 tail, 5 head 5 tail, and the last two 6 head and 6 tail. So these are our basically the combined outcomes of both the events. Combined outcomes of both the events. Both the events means first we are rolling a die and then we are flipping our coin. So this gives us basically how many outcomes? 12 possible outcomes. Okay, our tree diagram, we were interested in knowing the number of possible outcomes. That is, we want to count the possible outcomes. For this purpose we have used our tree diagram, and our tree diagram shows the possible outcomes of both the events. That is, given any one of the outcomes of the first event, that is, given any one of the outcome of rolling a die, there are 2 possible outcomes when we flip a coin. And what will be the possible outcomes if the order is reversed? If the order is reversed, which means that first we are flipping a coin and then we are rolling a die, then we will have 2 possible outcomes for the first part of the game. That is, either we will obtain a head or a tail, and 6 possible outcomes from the second part of the game. That is, we can obtain any number from 1 to 6. And this can be represented by the tree diagram as, we start our game here and we have 2 possible outcomes. First stage is flipping a coin and second stage is rolling a die. Either we will obtain a head or we will obtain a tail. With respect to head, either we will obtain 1 by rolling a die, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. If we flip a coin and we obtain tail as our first outcome, then again we have 6 possible outcomes or possibilities when we roll our die. That is, either we obtain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. So the possible outcomes in this case, or the combined outcomes, are, that is, head and 1, head and 2, head and 3, and so on up to head and 6. Similarly, tail and 1, and continuing up to tail and 6. So how many possible outcomes we have? By using our tree diagram, we have 12 possible outcomes in this order as well. Luckily, in these both of the examples, the number of possible outcomes is the same, that is the 12. But if we change the order of our events or the stages, then the possible outcomes will definitely change. Now, the tree diagrams are very helpful in counting the possible outcomes of a sequence of experiments or events. We have seen 2 examples where we have 2 events, first rolling a die and then flipping a coin, and with the help of tree diagram we come to know all the possible outcomes. Okay, but if the number of events is large enough, or number of events has large number of outcomes, then tree diagram method is not efficient in knowing all the possible outcomes of all the events. For example, in this case we have our following example. As in our previous two examples, for example, if we flip a coin first and then we roll a die, then the possible outcomes of our stage 1 are 2, and the possible outcomes of stage 2 are 6, and the total possible outcomes are obtained as 12, which is the number of possible outcomes of the first event times the number of possible outcomes of the second event. Okay, in this case it was manageable to obtain the number of outcomes by using the tree diagram as well. But if we want to find the number of possible outcomes generally, or if we have the number of events large or the possible outcomes large enough, then tree diagram is not enough to calculate the number of possible outcomes. Then with the help of this particular case, we can generalize our formula that the number of possible outcomes of the first event times the number of possible outcomes of the second event gives us the total possible outcomes, which means that we define our fundamental principle of counting, or the multiplication, also called as the multiplication rule. And it is defined as that if 2 experiments are performed, okay, in order, which means that the order of experiments performed matters, and there are n1 possibilities for the first experiment, or there are n1 possible outcomes for the first experiment or for the first event, and n2 possible outcomes, n2 possible outcomes for the second event. Then the possible combined outcomes are nothing but the product of the number of possible outcomes of both of the events. And we assume that none of the event influences the other event. None of the outcome of the first event influences the outcomes of the second event. Okay, or this is our assumption. Similarly, if we have n number of events, let's say n1, n2 and so on up to n capital N, then the number of combined possible outcomes of these n capital N events is nothing but the product of all the possible outcomes of these n capital N number of events. For example, if we toss a coin 8 times Then if we toss a coin, there are two possibilities. The possible outcomes in tossing a coin once are two, that is either we obtain a head or a tail. So when we toss a coin first time, we obtain two possible outcomes. Then again we toss a coin second time, we obtain two possible outcomes, that is either a head or a tail. And continuing, if we toss our coin 8 times, then each time we obtain two possible outcomes, and the total number of outcomes or the combined possibilities will be the product of the possible outcomes of each event. That is 2 into 2 up to 8 times, which is 2 to the power 8, and the total possible outcomes will be 256. So what we are doing in this fundamental principle of counting is, suppose we have some 10, let's say 10 events, and every event has number of possible outcomes, let's say small n. Then the combined possible outcomes will be the product of the possible outcomes of each of the events. For example, consider drawing of a 6-digit lottery number. Then the possible outcomes in this case will be, how many events are occurring? There are actually 6 events because we have a 6-digit lottery number. So we have 6 events, N1, N2, N3, N4, N5 and N6. Now each digit, now these N6 represents these 6 digits of our lottery number, and each digit or each event has the possibility of obtaining 10 possible outcomes, that is the outcomes from 0 to 9. That is, first digit or the first digit may obtain any number from 0 to 9. Similarly, the second digit may also obtain any number from 0 to 9, which means that each digit of the lottery number has 10 possible outcomes. So the combined possible outcomes will be equals to, or first we write the possible outcomes for first digit. Let's say first digit is N1 is 10, and for each digit the possible outcomes are 10. Okay, and the combined outcomes will be the product of the possible outcomes of each digit. The combined outcomes will be the product of the outcomes for first digit into the possible outcomes of the second digit into the possible outcomes for the third digit, and so on up to 6th digit, which is 10 and up into 10 up 6 times, which is 10 to the power 6, which is 1 million. So drawing a 6-digit lottery number has the possibilities 10 to the power 6. That is, we have just multiplied the number of possible outcomes of each event or each digit in this case. Another example, suppose 2 roads connect cities A and B, 4 roads connect cities B and C, and 5 roads connect cities C and D. Traveling from city A to B to C and then to D. So how many different routes are possible? For example, this is our city A and this is our city B. So there are two roads connecting our city A and B, 4 roads connecting city B to city C, and 5 roads connecting city C to city D. And we are interested in knowing the number of possible outcomes when we are traveling from city A to B. In fact, we are traveling from city A to D in the order that from going A to B, then going B to C, and then going C to D. Okay, so our first stage is the number of possible outcomes going from city A to B. In this case, we have the number of possible outcomes n1 is equals to 2. Our second stage, the number of possible outcomes in going from city B to C, which is equals to 4. And our third and the last stage, that is the number of possible outcomes in going from city C to D, which is equals to 5. So the combined outcomes or the possible routes are from going A to D via B and C will be nothing but the product of the possible outcomes of each stages, that is n1 into n2 into n3, which is 2 into 4 into 5, which is equals to 40. So there are 40 possible routes which can be obtained in going from city A to city D via city B and C. So now we have used our counting principle to obtain the number of possible outcomes when different events are happening. And we have to keep in order the order of the events happening. That is, in this example, the order should be considered in mind. That is, first order is going from city A to B, second is from B to C, and third is from C to D. Using this counting principle, we define one method which is called the permutation. The fundamental principle of counting is used in two other important counting methods. First important other counting method is the permutation. A permutation is an ordered arrangement of a set of items where different orderings of the same items are considered to be different selections and are counted separately. What do we mean by this definition of permutation? That is, permutation is nothing but an ordered arrangement of a set of items. For example, we are provided with three numerals 1, 2 and 3. Then one possible outcome or one possible arrangement of these three numbers is one possible arrangement of these three numbers is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so permutation says that it is an ordered arrangement of a set of items. We have a set having three items, three numbers 1, 2 and 3, and we want to find a permutation, that is just arranging our items. So 1, 2, 3 is basically an ordered arrangement from a given set of items. So 1, 2, 3 is a permutation. Okay. Now are there any examples of the permutation from this given set having elements 1, 2 and 3? Yes, of course, there exist other arrangements as well. So the other possible arrangements from our set having elements 1, 2 and 3 are other possible arrangements can be 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, 3, 1, 2 and 3, 2, 1, and our first arrangement was 1, 2, 3. So given a set of three items 1, 2 and 3, we have arranged these items and each of them is a permutation because we have arranged these items in some particular order. Now we can observe that none of this arrangement of items is a repetition. Each of them are individual, and what else our definition says that A permutation is an ordered arrangement of a set of items, okay, where different orderings of the same items are considered to be different selections and are counted separately. For example, we have one arrangement 1, 2, 3. The next arrangement is 1, 3, 2, and it contains the same items which we have considered in our first permutation. But the definition says that different arrangements count towards the new permutation and they are counted separately. So 1, 2, 3 is one permutation and 1, 3, 2 is another permutation, even though both of them have the same items. Now we are interested in knowing that how many possible arrangements we can make from this particular set having 3 elements, 3 items, and using all the 3 items at the same time. So for this we have our formula, which is based on the multiplication principle, known as the permutation counting. This formula says that the number of permutations of n things taken r at a time is denoted by npr, or simply p subscript n comma r, and the formula is npr, which is the product of n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 and so on up to r factors. Or this npr, where n should be written in subscript, is the product of n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 up to n minus r plus 1, that is up to r factors. So if we are given a set with some number of items and we are asked to find the permutations or the possible arrangements, suppose we have a set of 3 items 1, 2 and 3, and we are asked to find the number of possible arrangements or the permutations taken all the 3 items at the same time, then these are basically represent our permutation or the number of possible arrangements. That is, in our particular example, we have 6 possible arrangements from our set of 3 elements, that is n is equals to 3, taken r at a time. We are taking all the 3 at the same time, which means that the number of permutations in this case npn is equals to 6. That is the possible arrangement. Now npn means that here we have our number of possible outcomes taken is same as the given items. If n is equals to r, then our formula reduces to npn, which is equals to n into n minus 1 into n minus 2, and replacing r by n we obtained n minus n plus 1, which is nothing but n into n minus 1 into n minus 2, continuing up to 2 into 1. So in this particular example, here we have n, that is the number of items is 3. The number of items taken are also 3, that is r is equals to n. So npn should be equals to 3 into 3 minus 1 into 3 minus 2, and we stop here. That is, we have 3 into 2 into 1, which is equals to 6. So in this case we have 6 permutations, or in other words 6 possibilities of arranging 3 items taken from 3 items. We look at one more example of the permutation. Suppose we have a set of items of, let's say, colors with 4 colors: red, orange, yellow and green, and we are asked to find the permutations by selecting 3 at a time. Okay, we are given 4 actually, and we have to select 3 from them. The first possible arrangement can be red, orange, yellow. Another possible arrangement can be orange, red, yellow, yellow, green, red, green, yellow, red, orange, and so on. But these 4 are not the only possible arrangements taken from these 4 items when we are given these 4 items when we are taking 3 at a time. So are there any more? Yes, definitely there are many more possible arrangements, that is, there are many more permutations. Then how many are there in all? If there are more than these 4, then what is the number of the permutation? Now in this case, we don't have to list all the possible arrangements and count them to give our answer. But to give the answer, that is to give the number of permutations of 4 items taken 3 at a time, is nothing but NPR, where n is equals to 4 and r is equals to 3. And by putting this in our formula, we have n into n minus 1 and so on up to n minus r plus 1. So n is equals to 4, n minus 1 is 3, n minus r plus 1, that is 4 minus 3 plus 1 is 2. So we have to end here. So the number of permutations is the product of this formula, n into n minus 1 and going up to n minus r plus 1. So if we are given more number of items, let's say n items where n is 100, and we are asked to select 2 items from 100, then we don't have to list all the items and then count them. But we can use this formula to find the number of permutations, which is nothing but the product of the total items into n minus 1 and going up to n minus r plus 1, where r is the number of items taken from the total items. Now the same example, that is the set of items is, we have 4 and we are taking 3 at a time, so the number of permutations is 24. What is happening is basically in finding the permutations or in making an ordered arrangement, of R objects from n objects, we may choose any one of the n objects for the first possibility. That is, we have in total R objects to be taken out, and we have n main objects, that is, for n we may choose any of them. Then for the next position we are left with n minus 1 possibilities. For the next position we are left with n minus 2 possibilities, and continuing so on. For the last position we are left with n minus r plus 1 possibilities. Now once we fill the first possibility, we may choose any one of the n objects. We have n objects to fill the first position. To fill the next position we are left with n minus 1 objects. To fill the third position we are left with n minus 2 objects, and continuing so on to fill the last position we are left with n minus r plus 1 objects. So this is how the rule of permutation works. That is, given n objects and we have to take r objects from this, then the first object is free. It has the n possibilities. The second one is left with one less possibility, and so on. So this is how we obtain our permutation formula. Now we can write our permutation formula also in the factorial notation. That is, where we where our formula of NPR, that is given n objects taken R at a time, is the product of n minus 1, n minus 2, and continuing up to n minus r plus 1. Then we can also write this permutation formula by using the factorial notation. How? By using the factorial notation, we mean that n factorial is the product of n minus 1, n minus 2, and so on up to 3 into 2 into 1. For example, 3 factorial is the product of 3 and going downwards in the descending order into 2 into 1, which is equals to 6. For example, 6 factorial is the product of 6 into 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, which is equals to 720. That is opening the factorial in the descending order or in the decreasing order going up to 1, and then taking the product of all these numbers is just the factorial of the given number. Now we note that one important thing about the factorials is that 1 factorial is always equals to 1. And what about 0 factorial? 0 factorial is also equals to 1. Then our NPN formula will be equals to n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 and going up to 3 into 2 into 1, if we recall from our previous slides. And this is nothing but the definition of n factorial. So the number of permutations of n objects taken from n objects is nothing but n factorial. As in the case of our first example, that is the number of different permutations of the 3 numerals 1, 2 and 3 taken 3 at a time is 3p3, which is equals to 3 factorial, which is equals to 6, which is the same answer as we have seen or calculated by counting our number of possible arrangements. Okay, this was the factorial formula for NPN, that is when we have taken all the objects from the given objects. But if we are taking less objects from the given objects, that is the factorial formula for NPR, where we are given n objects and we are taking R at a time, where definitely R is less than n, then this formula NPR is n into n minus 1 and going up to n minus r plus 1. Fine, we call this as equation 1. Then multiplying our equation 1 by n minus r, n minus r minus 1, and so on up to 2 into 1. Multiplying and dividing by this term, we obtained our NPR will be equals to n into n minus 1 into n minus 2 going up to n minus r plus 1, and now this multiplied in the numerator, which is n minus r minus 1, and going up to 2 into 1 divided by n minus r, this thing, n minus r minus 1 going up to 2 into 1. Now if we look carefully at our numerator, this is nothing but the factorial of n, and if we look at our denominator, this can be also written in the factorial form as n minus r factorial. The first term from where we are starting is n minus r, and then taking the product in the descending order. So our NPR in terms of factorial formula is nothing but n factorial divided by n minus r factorial. So when we have large number of possible arrangements, we can, instead of listing all the possible arrangements and counting them to find the number of permutations, we can use this formula where what is required? Only the number of number of given objects and the number of objects taken from it. Okay, one thing which we may say that if n is equals to r, we have seen in our previous slide that nPn is n factorial. That is when the number of objects taken is same as the number of objects given. Now from this formula we can obtain our nPn formula. How? By simply replacing the value of r in our formula, we obtain n factorial over n minus n factorial, which is n factorial divided by 0 factorial, and we have seen that 0 factorial is always 1, so this is nothing but the n factorial. So now we have our formula in terms of factorial, that if we know the number of objects taken from the total number of objects, we can easily find the number of permutations or the number of possible arrangements from these objects by our formula n factorial over n minus r factorial. Now if we want to use this formula to calculate the number of permutations, for example, a person wishes to place a bet which selects the first 3 horses to finish the race in their correct order of finish. If 8 horses are in the race, how many different possibilities exist for the first 3 horses, assuming no ties? That is, we have to find the total number of possible arrangements or the number of permutations from this given data. Now we are given with 8 horses in total, so n is equals to 8, and a person wants to place a bet which selects first 3 horses, which means that our r is equals to 3. That is, we have taken 3 horses from the 8 horses, the first 3 horses from the 8 horses, which finish the race in their correct order of finish. And what are the different possibilities of obtaining the first 3 horses given total number of horses is 8? Then we have to find our NPR, which is equals to 8P3, and simply by putting the values in our formula, which is 8 factorial divided by 8 minus 3 factorial, which is 8 factorial divided by 5 factorial. Now 8 factorial can be written as 8 into 7 into 6 if we open the factorial, into 5, and we stop up to 5 factorial, divided by 5 factorial. So this 5 factorial cancels out, and we obtain 8 into 7 into 6, which is 336 possible outcomes when the first three horses winning the race. Where if we open our 8 factorial completely, we obtain 8 factorial is 8 into 7 into 6, and going in the descending order up to 1. Now if we look carefully, why we are interested in 5? Because it is occurring in the denominator. So 5 into 4 into 3 into 1 is nothing but the 5 factorial. So we may open the factorial not completely but up to our desired number, so that we can cancel out the factorials or the factorial sign is omitted, and we can simply calculate the resulting product. Now one more example about permutation. A presidential candidate would like to visit 7 cities prior to the next primary election date. However, it will be possible for him to visit only 3 of the cities. How many different routes can he and his staff consider? That is, we have to find the total number of permutations which when the presidential candidate has to visit only 3 cities from the 7 cities. So our n is equals to 7, that is the total number of objects, and the objects we are taking out is 3, which is equals to r. So npr is equals to 7p3, which is also written as p subscript 7 comma 3, which is equals to n factorial, which is 7 factorial, divided by n minus r factorial, which is equals to 4 factorial. And now we will do the same thing as we have done in our previous example. That is, we will open the numerator, the 7 factorial, only up to the required number, that is 7 into 6 into 5 into 4 factorial divided by 4 factorial. Now this factorial cancels out and we are left with 210 possible routes which a presidential candidate could consider in visiting 3 cities out of the 7 cities. Now we have seen 2 examples of permutations where we have used the factorial formula for the permutation to find the number of possible arrangements or the number of permutations. Now there is one more important counting method which we have seen in the beginning of the lecture, which is the combinations. Now in permutations we are concerned with the number of different ways in which a set of items can be arranged. This is clear from the definition and from the examples we have done so far. But in many situations there is an interest in the number of ways in which a set of items can be selected without any particular concern for the order or arrangement of the items. In permutation, we have used the same items as in our first example of 3 numerals, taking all the 3 at the same time. We have used the 3 items and the arrangement 1 2 3 and 3 2 1 uses the same 3 numerals. But if we restrict ourselves in knowing the number of ways in which this representation or arrangement can be made without any repetition of items, then such a collection or the number is known as a combination. That is, combination is a selection of pre-specified number of items from a given set of items where different orderings of the same items are considered to be the same combination and are not counted separately, as we have done in the case of our permutations. For example, the ordering 1 2 3 and 3 2 1 will be counted as 1 because they are made from the same items. So they will be considered as one combination and they will be counted as one only. A combination of r items selected from a set of n items is nothing but a subset of the set of n items. That is, combination is basically a subset of a permutation. That is, if we are given n items in total and we have to select r items, then the combination will be a subset of the set of n items. That is, NCR will be a subset of NCN, where the C represents the combination sign. And if we write P, then NPR, P represents the permutation sign. Now we start with some examples to get the clear idea of what do we mean by the combination and what is the difference between the combination and the permutation. We consider the case of 4 letters A, B, C and D, and we are interested in determining the number of combinations of these 4 letters taken 3 at a time. That is, we have n is equals to 4 and we are taking 3 at a time, so our r is equals to 3. So the possible arrangements, first we will write the possible arrangements only in this example just to understand how we can find our combinations. So the possible arrangements will be ABC, ACB, Possible arrangements of 3 letters taken from the 4 letters A, B, C and D. So the possible arrangements are BCA, CAB, CBA. Okay, we have some more possible arrangements when letter D is replaced by letter C, that is ADB, BAD, BDA, DAB and DBA. Okay. Okay, when we replace B by C, ACD, ADC, CAD, CDA, DAC and DCA. And when we replace A by B, that is BCD, BDC, CBD. So these are the possible arrangements of 3 letters taken from the 4 letters A, B, C and D. But we are interested in finding the number of combinations of 4 letters taken 3 at a time. So this is our basically the permutation, the number of possible arrangements. That is, this is our NPR, which is 4P3, which is 4 factorial over 4 minus 3 is 1 factorial, which is 24. 24 is our number of possible permutations. But we are interested in finding the number of possible combinations. In finding the combinations, if a letter repeats itself, no matter whatever the order is, that will be counted as one combination. If we look at our first column, all the arrangements have the same 3 letters A, B and C, which means that from here first column we have obtained only one combination when 3 letters are taken from the given 4 letters. Looking at our second column, all the possible arrangements have used the same 3 letters A, B and D, which means that according to definition of combination, this will give us only one combination, because in combination order does not matter. Similarly, for the third column we obtain only one combination, and from the fourth column only one combination. So the number of possible combinations we have obtained when we have taken 3 alphabets only from the 4 alphabets is only 4. And if we look at the relation between the permutations and the combinations, is our number of permutations NPR was 24. Now our number of combinations NCR is 4 only, which means that our number of permutations 4P3 is 4C3 into 3 factorial. That is 4 into 3 factorial is 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, which is 24, which is NPR. From here we obtained that the number of possible combinations is nothing but the number of possible permutations divided by R factorial. Now putting the value, which means that in calculating the number of possible combinations we first have to calculate the number of possible permutations. No, we will simply put the value of number of possible permutations, which is n factorial over n minus r factorial divided by r factorial, which is n factorial over r factorial into n minus r factorial. So the number of possible combinations can easily be obtained by using the factorial formula when we know the number of objects taken from the total number of objects. And the number of different combinations of R items which can be selected from n different items where R is less than n is denoted by the brackets NR. That is NR is equals to same as writing NCR is same as writing n factorial over r factorial into n minus r factorial. So now we look at some examples of combinations. For example, an example of political visit where a presidential candidate were given 7 cities before going to its next stage, and he can only make a visit up to only 3 cities. So what are the combinations of 3 cities might he and his staff consider visiting? That is, we have to find the total number of combinations when a presidential candidate and his staff visits the 3 cities given from the total of 7 cities. That is, n is equals to 7 and r is equals to 3. And NCR will be equals to 7C3 will be nothing by using the formula but 7 factorial over r factorial is 3 factorial over r into n minus r, that is 7 minus 3 factorial, which is 7 factorial divided by 3 factorial into 4 factorial. Now we can open our 7 factorial required up to our required number in the denominator divided by 3 factorial. 3 factorial can be open as 3 into 2 into 1 into 4 factorial. 4 factorial cancels out, 3 also simplifies, and we are left with 35 possible combinations when a presidential candidate can visit only 3 cities from a given of 7 cities. Let us consider one more example of combination, that is the example of nutrition planning. Nutritionists recommended that each adult consume on a daily basis a minimum of 4 servings from the milk group of foods, 2 servings from the meat group, 4 servings from the vegetable and fruit group, and 4 servings from the bread and cereal group. Okay, suppose that a chef has 6 items from the milk group, 5 items from the meat group, 7 items from the vegetable and fruit group, and 8 items from the bread and cereal group. Then if the chef is to provide no more than 1 serving of any item during the day, how many different groupings of food could be considered for a given day's menu? Okay, first we write the information we are provided with. We are provided with, that is, for the case of milk, the number of servings and the number of items. 4 servings from 6 items of milk in the case of meat, 2 servings from 5 items of meat in the case of vegetables and fruits, 4 servings from 7 items, and in the case of bread and cereals, 4 servings from 8 items. Okay, and we are asked to find the different groupings of food could be considered for given day's menu, provided that the chef is to provide no more than 1 serving of any given item during the day. So what is our assumption? Assumption is that no more than 1 serving of any given item during the day. Okay, so how we will proceed? First we will find the number of different combinations for the milk, then the number of different combinations from the meat section, the number of different combinations from the vegetable and fruit section, and the number of different combinations from the bread and cereal section. So the number of different combinations from the milk section will be NCR, that is 6 items and 4 servings are allowed, which is NC, which is 6C4, which is 6 factorial over 4 factorial into 2 factorial, which is equals to 6 into 5 into 4 factorial divided by 4 factorial into 2, and we are left with 15 number of possible combinations for the serving of 6 from the milk given for the 6 items of milk taken 4 servings at a time. So the number of combinations from the meat section will be NCR, which is equals to 5C2, which is equals to 5 factorial divided by 2 factorial into 3 factorial, which on simplification gives us 5 into 4 into 3 divided by 2 into 3, which is equals to 10 possible combinations. Okay, the number of combinations from the vegetable and fruit section is the number of items 7 and the number of servings 4 is 7C4, which is 7 factorial divided by 4 factorial into 7 minus 4 is 3 factorial, and on simplifying we obtained 35 possible combinations. Now the number of combinations from the bread and cereal section will be equals to 8C4, that is the 8 items and 4 servings will be 8 factorial over 4 factorial into 8 minus 4 is 4 factorial, and simplifying we obtained 70 possible combinations. Now we have found the number of combinations of each food group, but we are asked to find the different groupings of food which could be considered for a given day's menu, which means that the total number of different food groups will be equals to the number of possible combinations of the first food group, that is milk, that is 6C4, into the number of possible combinations of meat, which is 5C2, into the number of possible combinations of vegetable and fruit section, and into the number of possible combinations of the bread and cereal section, which is 15 into 10 into 35 into 70, which is 367,500 possible combinations from these given groups of foods. What we have done in this example, actually, we have calculated the number of combinations of each food group separately and the total number of food groups provided. What was provided at no more than 1 serving of any item, any given item during the day. So the number of possible combinations will be the product of all the possible combinations from each food group. Let us consider one more example of the college promotion committee. That is, a college promotion committee has 5 members. And how many different ways can committee reach a majority decision? So a committee has, college promotion committee has 5 members. So a committee can reach a majority decision if 3 of the members agree on the issue. Similarly, a college committee can reach a majority decision if 4 of the members agree. Similarly, if all of the 5 members agree, then the college committee can also reach the majority decision. So the number of different ways in which a committee can reach the majority decision will be equals to the sum of all these possibilities, all these combinations. Here we will not take the product. Why? Because these are separate. If 3 of the members agree, then the committee can reach the decision. Okay, the second situation is if 4 of the members agree, then the committee can also reach the decision. And if all the members agree, then the committee can reach the decision. So the number of combinations will be 5C3 plus 5C4 plus 5C5. That is the sum of all the possible combinations in which a committee can reach a majority decision, which is 5 factorial over 3 factorial into 2 factorial plus 5 factorial into 4 factorial into 1 factorial plus 5 factorial into 5 factorial into 0 factorial, which is equals to, upon simplifying the first term, we obtain 10, upon the second one we obtain 1, and here we upon the second one we obtain 5, and here we obtain 1, because 0 factorial is 1, 5 factorial divided by 5 factorial is 1. So the number of possible combinations in which a committee can reach a majority decision is 16. That is the sum of all the possible combinations. In this example, we have added all the possible combinations, and in the previous example, we have taken the product of all the possible combinations. So while dealing with the combinations, we have to be very careful which operation we have to use, the product or the sum, by looking at our particular example. With this, we end our today's lecture. Today we have studied the number of elements by taking the union of 2 sets, the counting method, that is the tree diagram, and the fundamental principle of counting. We have also studied permutation, some examples, and the permutation counting rule. Then we have seen the definition of factorial, and we have defined our permutation formula in terms of the factorial formula. Then we have studied the combination. What do we mean by this? Some examples of the combination, relationship between the permutation and the combination, and with the help of this relationship we have dig out our factorial formula for the combination. And some examples where we have seen that which type of combination we have to use, that is either the sum of all the combinations or the product of all the combinations. Then we have some practice questions from the section 13.2. With this, we end our today's lecture, and in our next lecture we will discuss about the probability. Allah Hafiz, students.